Katie, would you call the roll, please?
John Helge.
Here.
Jerry Haw.
Yes.
Vidar Liram.
Yes.
Sarah Stevenson.
Here.
Nick Lucina is absent. David Blair, absent.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Yes.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the agenda that's on the table in front of you.
I will make the motion to approve the agenda as presented to us tonight for the tonight's
Thank you,
meeting.
Jerry. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. At this time, we're going to have public comment, and we'd like to hear from anybody from the public. I'd like to bring some business or concerns to us. We ask that you come here to the podium and just start off by making sure we have your name and your address, and then you've got up to 5 minutes to speak with us and tell us your concerns and your issues, okay?
Okay. Got some pictures here. I have a tree. My name is Kate.
Come on up here, please.
Yep, right up to the podium.
This is all being recorded, by the way. All open meetings in the state of Michigan are recorded. So
Okey doke.
I'll make sure that what you got to say gets on the record, okay?
Okay. I live at 222 Fifth Avenue. And I have a tree that's in front of my house that the roots are growing under the sidewalk. And it's kind of a hazard because I have a picture here of one of them. And it's raised about half an inch off the sidewalk itself. And I have a lot of little kids and older people go by the house. I hate to have them fall. But I don't want the roots growing under there either and coming into the house. So, I was here last year and got stuff taken care of, and I was hoping somebody could come and look at the tree. Mm-hmm. It's leaning towards the south, towards the road. And the roots are starting to come to the surface. And it's an old tree. So, you did good on the tree next door last year, so. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much. And
I got pictures if you wanted to see them, but if somebody comes to the house and looks at the sidewalk.
right. So, our next move here on the agenda is to approve the minutes from our March 9 meeting. Those minutes are in front of you. Katie also does a great job of getting us those minutes well ahead of time. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, I need a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Thank you,
from March
Sarah.
9th.
Is there a second?
I will second it.
Thank you, Jerry. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, before we move on to new business, is there any old or unfinished business that anybody would like to bring up? Hearing none, let's move on. Under new business, the first item of work we need to do this afternoon is to update the Manistee plant-a-tree species selection options. What the urban forestry management plan and the inventory tells us is we have plenty of maples in Manistee. And right now we have 2 of our 5 choices online on the page are maples. And I think it's probably to our advantage to replace one of those maple species with an alternative. So hopefully you've had an opportunity to do a little bit of research and some thinking on it. And not to put everybody on the spot, but I think I'd like to start with Sarah just to ask you, what are your thoughts and what recommendations would you have?
So the 2 maple species, can you remind me again what they are? Is red, isn't one of them a red
Red maple and sugar maple.
Yeah.
red maple and sugar maple?
Wait a minute, question. Is that correct? Have I got the right one here? I don't know.
That is the correct one. That
That's
is
correct.
correct.
So I would want to hear the opinion of Tyler and his folks as to which maple species they would find more beneficial. But in terms of replacements, I thought the downy serviceberry was nice, the river birch. I don't know if any of these are possibilities. The American smoke tree, I mean, if we're looking at, you gave us that table with ratings, those all meet the qualifications we were looking for in terms of climate resistant, native species, doesn't get too big. So those would be my choices, I guess.
So depending on which maple species we replace, obviously the red maple is a short, its growth is, can you give me that a minute? Just,
Sure, go ahead.
it says here the red maple grows to be 40 to 60 feet high, and the sugar maple goes 55 to 75 feet high.
That's bigger than what I picked out. Mine are all top out at 40.
Okay, well, that's an option. That, it would still be fine. We have white oak on there, which is 50 to 80 feet in height at maturity.
Wow, okay.
The flowering crabapple is 20, 25 feet, and the mountain ash are 12 to 36 feet. So, obviously, we still have a lot of overhead wires and things but even 40 feet can get into those wires.
Yeah.
But,
What I liked about the ones that I thought would make good replacements is they produce food for pollinators, and with the serviceberry, you can eat humans can eat that too. So I thought that was kind of cool, but
okay. Well, and I like your idea about, especially since Josh is here, as we go through all these, we'll get some feedback from you, Josh, as to your thought process on this after we hear from everybody on the commission here.
Come back to the maple question when you
Yes.
guys are ready, and I can comment on that whenever you guys are ready.
I think would you comment on get rid of the red maple or the sugar maple?
So I would keep the red, because the red is more adapted to a wider range of soil types. So if you're gonna run into anything from extremely dry to extremely wet, red maple can grow anywhere. Sugar maple has a tighter niche in terms of where it does best. It cannot be on too dry, and it cannot be on too wet. So you got all those things happening in city environments with soils. So red has better adaptive characteristics to a wider range of sites if you're gonna keep a maple.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, and especially as our consulting arborist, your input is very important to us. And so what I'm hearing you say is we'll keep the red maple, your recommendation is keep the red maple and replace the sugar.
It also tends to be the one that people gravitate towards for
Yeah.
fall colors.
Okay?
The other consideration, though, to just think about would be, do you need a maple at all on your list?
Pardon me?
Do you need a maple on your list?
Do we even need a maple? No.
I mean, with 58% of our tree species being maple, I would say not right now, like in the future, that's my opinion.
When you're looking at the current canopy, red maple, you're approaching 700 trees that were inventoried. And the sugar maple, significantly less at 170 some. But what Josh said is true. Red maple is going to be easier to plant on more sites than the sugar maple. So I would just say maybe consider for your limited planting selection, maybe once this is all finalized, you want to overhaul the whole thing again and have a little bit of a different process, maybe that's size dependent,
Yep.
where the trees are gonna go, you have multiple options for small trees, multiple options for large trees. But maple doesn't necessarily need to be included, because you're never gonna lose the amount of maples that you have here.
Okay. Well, and that's exactly the value of having you guys here and having more than one person making a decision. I'm not against, dropping both maples from this system, because we can always add them back in later,
Yeah.
that type of thing.
And the time you may end up doing that is, if the hope
Pardon?
is- the time you may end up doing that, and the hope is you phase all your Norways out
Yeah.
long term. Because
Yeah.
that's your dominant maple. So when you phase those out, there may be a time when introducing some native maples back into the mix makes sense. But
Do-
one rule you guys can use to help put a mathematical formula to this diversity is just use that rule that's laid out in the plan. There's a family genus species ratio rule that's right in the plan that says pick things that don't exceed these percentages of each of these groups. And I suggest using that as you select things because then you're gonna be safe as far as not biasing towards one group excessively any given year.
Okay. Appreciate that. And guys, the other thing we have to think about is the contractor that we get to provide these trees, are they available? Are they available? So, yeah, we can come up with ideas today, but it's gonna boil down to, Jeff, your contractor's gonna have to, tell us, is that feasible or not?
Yeah, when we did this last time, and I would encourage us to do this again, is maybe create a list of 3 different tree species that you would like to substitute, and maybe 4 if you're going to replace both maples. And then we can check on that availability with our contractors to see if the nurseries are growing and providing them. And then you can make your final decision based on that.
Okay, sounds good. And Sarah, I love what you said about looking at the overall capability to provide environment for, both pollinators and, other things too. So that's really good. You appear to be busy working. I'm gonna go to Jerry, if that's all right, Peter, and come back to you.
Yep.
So, Jerry?
Okay, I was tending towards getting rid of the red maple because I kind of like the sugar maple simply because that's where we get maple syrup from, I understand anyway, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, I've got no problem getting rid of the sugar maple, but I think we ought to keep one maple on here even though I know what they're saying over there and I've read over this inventory study and so on. But the amount of trees that we get through this public planning session right now is really small in the scale of things large and small. We get maybe 50, 60, 70 at the most. So out of that, there might be 3 red maples, or maples. So I think we ought to keep the red maple and substitute something else in there. And one of my suggestions for substituting is American basswood.
Okay.
That's, I would like to see an American basswood. Then you'd have the basswood, you'd have an oak, and you'd have a red maple. And those are 3 large trees. And we also have some smaller trees too.
Okay.
Which I think the flowering crabapple is a nice tree to have, and the mountain ash. They're kind of like medium, small sized trees.
Would you have another idea other than the American basswood?
Not at the moment, I have to
Okay, that's fine.
think about these
Fine.
things.
Okay, very good. What do you think?
Hackberry and swamp white oak.
Hackberry?
Yeah, that was my first choice.
Okay. And swamp white oak. Have you've expressed your feeling on maybe replacing both the maple species?
I mean, for a period, I think it's not a bad idea until we get,
Can we vote on it?
Sure, absolutely. Just getting discussion going now. And do you have any other preferences that you'd like as far as species?
no, I'm good.
Sarah, I'm going to go back to you, and I'm sorry I wasn't writing them
Oh.
down. Could you give me your ideas?
Sure, river birch, downy serviceberry, and American smoke tree, which is not native to Michigan, but it's native to the United States.
Smoke tree?
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Okay, Peter, what do you think?
I think that since we have that many maples, we should replace both those options for now.
Okay.
I like the idea of the serviceberry. It's a nice tree.
Okay,
feeds the birds and feed people if they are out there early enough to get fruit.
And Peter, I believe it feeds skunks also.
What?
I believe it feeds skunks also.
okay.
Sorry about that. Again, I can assure you that he was trapped this morning. Serviceberry, the river birch, is that one of those birches that really,
Got like a brown bark,
does it have more, more brownish bark and
brownish, and
more stems?
curls off more, kind
Yeah.
of comes
It's,
along.
I thought it had a rugged white bark.
But they are okay with this climate, aren't they? Because I'm asking because we had, when we bought this house over in Cedar, we had some birches in the front and they were not good for this location. They were
River
dying.
birch has a more southern range, but it's predicted to do reasonable pushing northward. You guys named 3 climate change species just now: hackberry, swamp white oak, and river birch. Those are all, like, you're not gonna see those in the wild around here, but they're predicted to do okay farther north. So,
What's your opinion on this river birch, though? I know, obviously, the white birch have a relatively limited life cycle, and
I'm thinking outside the realm of just what is cool in cities and more like what are some needs we have ecologically. Yellow birch is one that I would advocate because we're losing it in our forests, deer browsing, and because our management practices haven't promoted it. So having like a seed source scattered for that would be kind of interesting. And that's a true northern native yellow birch, and it's a long-lived birch. It's not short-lived like paper birch. It's a forest birch that has a much longer lifespan, and it's charismatic looking. It has a really pretty golden orange. You guys are all familiar with yellow birch? It has a really aromatic smell when you scratch the twig, and it's actually a preferred tree for certain warblers. Warblers will pick that tree over other trees to glean insects off of it. So lots of it. But you could do both. You know, you got yellow and river. You don't have to pick.
well,
one.
again,
What's the average height of it, this yellow birch?
What's that?
What's the height of it, average height?
It's going to be a canopy tree, just like the maples.
Okay, so it's considered probably a 50-footer.
Just keep in mind some of those height things you guys are reading. Think about the overlap with those. Overall, you should interpret those overlaps as relatively the same height. There might be a 10-feet difference in the
Okay,
ranges you're seeing, but there are classes where it's either a canopy tree like maples, oaks, black cherries, birches, or a small tree like serviceberries, musclewood, or a true shrub like hazelnuts, sumacs, things like that. That's really the way to think about height. It's not splitting hairs over like a 10-foot difference on data, because that's going to vary based on the soils and the local microclimate.
David, with your expertise in working with these trees, and Lord knows you're cutting a lot of them down, what do you think about the river birch itself? Are you,
The ones I've seen have been healthier than the white. They're not like he was saying, they're not out in the wild. I mean, I've seen them at customers' homes, but they're usually doing really well.
okay.
I like them.
Right now, I've written down 6 options. I think we need to decide and take a vote. Do we replace both maples or just one maple? So what I'd like to have is a motion to either accept one or, cut one or accept them both or keep them both. Okay? So the motion has to go either way. The motion I would prefer would be, you make a motion, and I can't make a motion as your chair, but I'm just advising, I want a motion that we eliminate the red maple, or we eliminate the sugar maple. Or, and if you're against it, or, then you keep them both.
or
I'd
get
like,
rid of them both.
Okay, maybe a better idea, I'm listening.
yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we replace both maples. If that fails, then we can decide on which.
Okay. So the
Just
motion on
North
the,
extreme first, right?
yep, motion on the floor is to replace both maples on our Manistee planetary option. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
David, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, we're going to replace both maples.
Wow.
Okay? So, we've got American basswood, hackberry, swamp white oak, river birch, downy serviceberry, and American smoke tree on the list right now.
And what about yellow birch? The
Pardon?
one- What about the one Josh suggested?
What was the name,
Yellow
Josh?
birch.
Yellow birch.
Yellow birch?
Instead of the river birch?
Instead of river?
No, I was suggesting you guys could do both.
Oh, okay.
Well, both are gonna be much different compared to the paper birch that Dave was talking about. Paper birch is just short-lived, and the other thing to remember about paper birch is people often misidentify it with the European paper birch, which can really struggle with pests and diseases, so
I see.
not all your paper birch in the city is native paper birch, there's European paper birch that looks almost identical. But both can be problematic, whereas like the river and the yellow are gonna tend to have fewer issues. So.
Let me ask, Jeff, we've got 7 species here. We're going to replace 2 options. Would it be wise to take all 7 of these to the contractors and come up with 2 that they feel comfortable with?
That's certainly a possibility. If you weren't strongly moving one way or the other, I could go to go to 1 or 2 of the contractors, check on availability, and kind of rate them by availability, and then maybe at your next meeting, you could use that data to finalize the 2 replacements.
Everybody comfortable with that?
I like that idea. Sounds good to me.
Yep.
So I think,
What about also seeing like what's not on the list, not on the current Planet Tree program list, and then what else is available in higher quantities, and then maybe have that as an option also, possibly? I mean, we don't know what else there might be high stocks of, or,
I think one of the things I want to be careful of is, and again, I have nothing against the contractors, they've done excellent work. But what I don't want to do is end up with a tree that's non-native, you know, and not beneficial or not a good fit. So I think, and Josh, I think we're in agreement here with these 7 8 now that we've got on here, that these are all trees that are native, maybe not to Michigan, but at least the United States, and are somewhat beneficial from an ecological standpoint, right?
Were there any that you heard that you would say absolutely not to? Any of the suggested ones?
Ecologically, you probably won't hear me make an argument for smoke tree,
Okay.
but the rest of them are actually native to Michigan. The rest of them are just more.
I'm
native to
comfortable
southern
taking that off.
You comfortable taking a smoke tree off?
Yep.
All right, line going through.
Question for Josh,
Yes.
just out of ignorance. The yellow birch, does that have 1 stem typically?
That depends on what you do with it when it's young.
Oh, okay.
It's true, that's one of the reasons you get multi-scrubby trees when they're older, is because there was never any young tree pruning done. That's why you get co-dominant stems on maples. The time to prune them is when they're younger, so you control the number of stems. So yellow, I will say yellow does come to it does tend to come in as a seedling, as a single stem. More often than paper birch, you're more likely, in my experience with tree nurseries, to get multi-stem paper birch right off the bat when it comes off the nursery beds versus yellow. But anything can come in multi-stem technically. And it's gonna be multi-stem as it gets older if you don't take control of that using those young pruning practices.
And that's something that's really common with the river birch too, for it to be sold in like a 10-gallon pot has a multi-stem tree. It's, for a lot of people, I think it's an aesthetic thing in their yard to have multiple,
Yeah, it's a feature
it's-
tree.
Yeah.
you
it's
know.
something that if you want a single stem tree, you need to be clear with your contractor that's what they should be procuring, not a multi-stem tree. Because I was at a nursery this weekend, every single river birch there was multi-stem river birch.
I have a question,
Yeah,
if I
go
might. Are any of the proposed species shallow rooted that would impact sidewalks more than others?
A lot of that's driven by what the roots are scavenging for. So the way I convey that to anybody, which can be a shocker to some people, is that in this part of the world, your biggest trees are not really shooting the roots deeper than 5 feet. It's not depth, it's lateral growth is what they're searching for structural stability. So the degree of like where they're going in the soil and interfering with things is what they're being drawn to. So if you got more moisture over here in this yard, because somebody's overdoing it, watering or whatever, you're gonna get a root system that's more conducive to growing that way. So that's a really tough thing to predict. I mean, and there's no way to avoid root like intrusion at least underneath the sidewalk. That's gonna happen no matter what, because city trees are under a huge amount of stress. They never have an ideal amount of root
Yeah.
root systems. They're always looking to get further out than what they're capable of doing. Something that might be worth doing, and I know, John, you brought this up at the last meeting, but I just did an entire presentation on every single one of these topics down in Ludington as part of the tree advisory board, and it covers things like critical root zones, structural root zones, proper planting practices with city trees, and it also covers that DNR link that came out, and I have generated a list that's on the slides I put together of all of the native Michigan trees by group that you can filter through this new DNR urban and suburban forestry database. So there's a tool out there where you can do a filter and get a gigantic list of stuff. So then instead of saying to a contractor, hey, what do you have the most of, you can spit a list to a contractor and say, of these, what do you have the most of? I think that would be an easier way to start filtering species in the future.
Okay.
But that's something that I'm happy to do, like, for the public here. Tyler and I have already talked about it, you know, in addition to the other grant stuff.
I think certainly for the grant plantings, you're gonna use those tools. And that's, I really want that to be up to you guys as the experts for the grants. You know, this is, like we say, we might get 40 to 50 trees a year here. But hopefully what the grant, we've got a goal of 100 trees that we want to plant through this grant alone. So I would really love to see how that works for you and the grant. And then in the meantime, I think we just give this list to the contractors and see what they come up with, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, what I'm saying was that selection tool is available like now.
Yeah,
You guys can go through that, and the table that pops up tells you all these different attributes of each of the trees. So it could be a helpful way to like do things internally, even if you're only planting 10 trees, because you get attribute data on selection. So it's live, the tool's live already.
that's the point. There's some great tools coming down the pike that we all can. And I think we'd benefit from it, you know, I don't want to speak for all of you sitting here, but I think we'd benefit from, you know, sitting in a classroom with Josh, you know, letting us know about this kind of stuff. And he's not going to make us into arborists, but he's going to make us more effective in what we do. So, all right, I think we're at a point where we can move forward. We're going to give this list to Jeff, and you're going to go check it out, and at the next meeting, we'll come back with a recommendation from the contractors, which I think is the way to go. Everybody comfortable?
Did we have 7 or 6 on the list? I forgot.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, so we did dump one already from the
Yeah.
7. Okay,
We
good.
dumped the smoke tree,
Okay,
okay?
Yep.
So, all right, let's move on, okay? It's time now I want to welcome Tyler. Thanks for coming. You're still on parental leave until at least Wednesday, right?
I'm on through the course of summer, but I'll be working like.
I'll tell you what, thank you. And your young one, I got to see a picture, guys. You got to ask him for a picture of this guy. He looks like he's going to be a linebacker. And I think he's eating like one already. So you've done a great job, and the document we have in front of us is the draft urban forestry management plan, but it's also got comments. So I'm gonna turn the floor over to you,
So, yeah, so
Tyler. You tell us what's going on.
I just thought, I sent this to you guys electronically, but I know some people are old school and like to have pen and paper. So I've gone through and printed with all of Josh's and my comments that we would submit to Great Lakes Urban Forestry for inclusion. So you can see what each one of our comments are. And then there's a couple of things that I just want to hit on with you guys. So like something that Josh was just talking about with the DNR tools, incorporating that into the plan. So when you have a question about something, rather than just referring to this, all those additional outside resources are available to you in the plan through links. So that way you'll be able to access it. And then there were just a couple of things within the plan, and I have to find them, but they were more questions for you guys, not something that I can necessarily answer. And I'll find the page and then I'll let you know.
Are these things that are highlighted in yellow?
Yes.
There's one on page 25,
And,
26, I'm sorry.
yeah, no, that's not the
That-
one, no. I'm not sure why that one got highlighted. So there is one on page 30, it's not highlighted. But I just commented, I need to know how Jeff wants this worded. So this is implementing the removal plan. So they've got in there, trees 12 inches and under are assumed to be small enough for city staff to perform the removals. Trees 13 inches and larger will be contracted out. And that's something that Great Lakes put in there, but Jeff, I think it's ultimately up to you how you want that worded in there.
Page 30. I will say they've done a hell of a job taking down some pretty big trees.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever not taken a tree because of size. It's more about, the only time we have not is when it's impacted by the
Utilities.
utility
Okay.
lines.
So do you want it worded in the plan that way that DPW will handle tree removals with the exception of utility conflicts?
Yeah, unless safety factors,
My observation and the observations of the public that have been conveyed to me is our DPW does a fantastic job of doing it safely and carefully.
I concur with that.
Yep, I've heard the same
I
thing.
concur with that.
Okay, and then let me see here, what else I have. I should have wrote down notes earlier.
On
so I
page
could find the
22,
page.
completion date,
That's, more for them. I believe,
okay?
let's see,
Page 18 had some yellow highlights.
Right. Now, these highlighted yellow parts in here that we're looking at, Tyler, are those your comment? Yours and Josh's?
they're my comments, so yeah. Under goal 1,
It's there. See,
so they had put a strategy in there, acquire equipment, so this is on page 18. Acquire equipment and hire part-time staff for regular summer tree watering for the first 2 years after planting, already in place, ? That is directly from Great Lakes. So, right now, I just have the responsibility currently falls on DPW staff and homeowners through the Plant a Tree initiative. If a homeowner requests a tree, in front of their house, they receive information on watering and are asked to take on that responsibility. What we don't directly answer is through this planting initiative, if we're planting 100 trees and we don't have sign on from residents to take care of the trees, are we gonna have our neighborhood advisory groups take that on? How does that work with DPW, as far as getting water to the trees, things like that?
So something that we want to think of for a strategy for maintenance. I just want to know what we have in place or what we want to do that can be included in the plan.
I would say, my thought on this specifically is we don't want to lay any more work on our DPW staff as a part of this, our plan. We need the public to be engaged. And the DPW right now, they'll water trees that are on the parkland. You know, like at the disc golf course, they do that.
Okay.
But this grant is not gonna be for parkland or anything like that. What we've gotta rely on is like we've done on 8th Street, which is getting customers engaged, or residents engaged. And we're gonna depend on the neighborhood advisory groups to help us do that.
Okay. And is there anything that the tree commission can offer to those neighborhood advisory groups? Like, are they filling gallons of water at their house and then driving over to water the trees, or is?
I'm not expecting the neighborhood advisory group people that are on that to be the waterers. No, I'm advising them to be able to knock on the door of their neighbor with a tree in front of them and say, hey, you know, we need your help in watering this tree. But I don't hold them accountable for physically watering any of the trees that are put in.
Okay, and so say a resident that has a tree in front of their property doesn't want to take on ownership of that, find someone on that block that's willing to cover.
Well, again, the whole.
Trees are there essentially.
Yeah, so what our current program does, and part of the way that it's constructed the way that it is that we have citizens that are requesting a tree, and then we obviously are subsidizing the cost to purchase the tree and have it planted, and we're also providing a watering bag for it. And then the tree commission is also put together some literature so that we can advise them that those first 2 years are critical to keep the bags full. We've created a program where they can return those bags to us, they can be reused, and then it can help keep the cost of that program down. So that whole program is built to have buy-in, because contractors won't warranty the trees. So this is a way for them to buy in and have that success.
The other buy-in is that right now, they're gonna spend $75 to get that $400 tree
Right.
in front of their house.
The trees that we're planting within the parks or city property, I'm taking on that responsibility to provide that watering because it's not that much of a burden. When we do when we got grants the last 2 years through DTE, then the tree commission has put together further literature and gone door to door and advised them that, we'd like to plant a tree in front of your house. If somebody says, no way, I'm not gonna take care of it, they may move on to another location that would. My understanding of the citizen advisory was to go out into the neighborhoods and find people within those zones that have the tree planting opportunities that would engage and would be positive, and therefore we get them to do that maintenance. Because I certainly wouldn't want to plant one of those trees in front of somebody's house that A, doesn't want it, and B, doesn't want to take care of it.
So
Is that fair?
Follow the same procedure essentially with our list of trees.
Yep.
We can essentially look at the plantable areas and then kind of maybe have a larger list than what we actually anticipate planting, and then go based on consumer concern or willingness to take care of a tree to decide a final planting area.
One of the things on that, Tyler, I would suggest is come up with your initial list of trees that you want to plant using the grant. Then we need to have a meeting with the citizens advisory groups, the neighborhood advisory group. We can have one meeting and we can present to them, these are the species of trees that we're looking to put in. And what we hope you will do is you will now go back and talk to people in your neighborhood. If most people know who in the neighborhood, are the people that get shit done. right? And that's, that's the kind of thing, and we want to make sure that we're talking to people that have opinions,
Okay.
so that they're on board. And that, we got to rely on the citizens of neighborhood advisory groups to do that.
Okay, I think I can work that into the actual goal.
I think what you stated is correct, and that's the strategy.
Okay.
I mean, it's not the rule, but it's the strategy.
Okay, so then also on that page, they've taken on, a goal for you guys. Obviously through the grant, our goal was 100 trees. In subsequent years, plant 75 trees per year to build up the number of types of trees during the 10-year time frame of this plan. So, do you guys want to adjust those numbers? That's a pretty lofty goal. But this is essentially your goal for yourself, your commission, what you think capable, so I don't want to put something in there that is too
I
far-fetched.
think it goes back to budgeting.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to work with Jeff, the city council, with, what, the city council just got done doing the budget for the next year, and they had to cut a lot of stuff. Okay, so I'm concerned with setting, that's a pretty lofty goal, 70.
Yeah, yeah, and I knew that would be for you guys based on your history, so I'm just wondering what number you guys want to have in there as a goal. Is it-
5 years ago, we were probably averaging about 20, and I think now we're probably more in the 40 range because the commission has done more advertising and more engagement. So as a goal, I would think 50 would be a reasonable goal, and if we can achieve that, you can adjust it. I mean, we're not going to limit it. There is a cost to it. We're obviously subsidizing, if the tree costs $400, we're subsidizing $325 per tree. The funds for that come out of the street budget. So the same money that we pave streets and upgrade our streets is the money we're using for this. But we have never capped it. We've never said we're going to plant up to 50 and and stop there. So we'll just keep adjusting those numbers as the success of the program continues.
And the harsh reality of life is 50 times 325 doesn't pave much, right?
I'm scratching at every dollar, though.
Our harsh reality is.
Yeah.
But I agree.
But it could do a lot of sidewalks, so
Yeah.
there's got to be a balance there.
The other thing, I don't want to put your department in,
Yeah.
I don't want to make a lofty goal and then put you in trouble.
Well, I think that with more community engagement that this commission has done in recent years, has brought that number up to 40, right? We have raised the price from 50 to 75, and that still seems very reasonable to me. But if we follow through with the goal of engagement by the community, if you set the goal at 75, we're going to have to plant 35 trees somebody didn't ask for,
Yeah.
right? Or we're going to have to go out and find people that are willing to take it on and willing to pay for that. So you can set that goal, but there would be more legwork probably for the commission to do or the community groups to engage in.
Everybody comfortable with 50?
I am 50.
Okay. We're going to go with 50 in that specifically, Tyler, okay?
Okay. All right, so I jumped ahead to page 34. And it's just something I wanted to have a conversation, especially with Josh here. It's my, I guess, I believe that you guys are currently using like bracing systems on the new trees.
Yes.
Okay, so Great Lakes included in here, no cabling, bracing, or other such support system shall be installed in city-owned trees either by staff, its residents, or any contractors. Exceptions may be made by obtaining prior written approval of the Public Works Director or the City Council. So Josh, do you maybe want to talk about some of the issues that can come from bracing trees? And why Great Lakes might have that in the plan?
Is this just for the planting, or is this more of a permanent type?
This is part of your plan, so this is a permanent recommendation that they're putting in there, that trees won't be
I can see.
cabled.
I can see not having, you know, if you've got a tree that's, you know, got a bad branch and we're bracing it up and we're wiring it, hoping it just stays there, you know, and it's a mature tree, I said, no, we don't want to do that.
Right.
That's not the bracing they're referring to, though. They're
What, you know.
talking about like the guys and the stakes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So unfortunately, when you guys are doing larger caliper trees that are really tall relative to how small the root system is, they're tipsy. This is part of why I've been trying to get cities around Michigan to think more about potted stock that's a little shorter, that doesn't require that kind of protection at all. Because when you put Baldwin burlap stuff in, that's got a really tall tree relative to the small root system, it has a tendency to do this. I'm sure you guys have already seen this in some of the plantings. I don't know the kind of trees you guys are putting in. I haven't taken a real close look at them. But the bracing and cabling is only meant to keep trees up that can't hold themselves up. But you can put trees in that can hold themselves up. The trade-off to that is a lot of potted stock you would get that works perfectly well in a city setting, is also not quite tall enough to be safe from deer. So now you have to put cages on it. So your trade-off is you're either gonna have that eyesore of grouse protection or something that doesn't need to be braced at all because it'll grow just fine as a potted tree. Or you're gonna do the really tall stuff with the root system, especially near these winds coming off the lake, that is gonna need something like guys and stakes to keep it stable until those are ready to come off. But when you look at our horticulture standards with those kinds of things, those are not to be put on trees as like a default. They're only to be put on trees if necessary. And that's probably what Great Lakes is
Yeah.
getting at.
And that's where, so they've got this in the plan as City of Manistee internal policies on page 34. So you might want to look at the rest of those policies, but that was something that flagged for me because I knew that you guys were cabling and bracing the new trees. And I don't know what your policy is on removing those bracing structures. Is there one? So if we want,
What I've seen, they tend to disappear after a couple of years.
yeah.
When the bags come off, so do the stakes.
okay. So we can revise this however you want. If you feel the need, and it really, like Josh said, kind of depends on what you can get from the supplier. If you're going Baldwin burlap and larger stock and you need to brace the tree, maybe we change this internal policy to have a timeline of effective bracing or something along
You have that list in front of you with the 5 species. Isn't it like an inch and a half caliper?
Jerry,
I don't know if it stays on there, if that's in our bidding documents.
I don't think it tells us,
I
but
don't
It
think there
doesn't,
was,
it's not.
there was no diameter in it.
It doesn't.
Oh, right here.
I think it's just in the
It
bid.
has a height but no diameter.
yeah. We don't have a diameter per se, but they're all.
It's
they're
in
all
our
less than
bidding
2
documents,
inches.
though.
They're all
Yes.
inch and a half to 2 inches, right?
Yeah,
And the stakes that are put up there are just, 3 stakes with a small
Yeah.
high lines off to protect the tree for the first year, 2 years at the most, because generally after 2 years, people get tired of going around them with a lawnmower and just
Yep.
take them off and pull them up.
And that's-
the stick itself rots away.
This is one of those things that, from Great Lakes, that they kind of contradict themselves, because they also put in here a minimum inch, 1.75 inch caliper for trees planted, which we'll change that in the plan, because one, you're not gonna get, if you wanted to do potted stock, you're not gonna get potted stock in that large of caliper, and we're not held to that by the grant, so we'll reduce that. But the fact that they're requiring such a large tree and then also telling you that you can't cable or brace it, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, so. So I'll kind of revise
Yeah.
that line item, for what we think makes sense for you guys to include in the plan.
So I would also point out that technically, when we're bidding these out and we put those specifications out, I believe that's the DPW director putting that in writing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
When we do it through our program, so technically
I
it
can
would
keep, I
comply.
can keep that aspect in it, but maybe just give you guys a little more guidance rather than
Well, and,
just a blanket statement.
yeah, and personally, I think that the caliper is chosen to give the tree the best advantage to grow, but it also is to prevent that deer browse, and we've got tremendous populations in the city. So,
Not
That's the
just the deer
trade-off.
browsing, it's the rubbing. We're
Keep in
li-
mind, there's a lot of root stress on trees that are already that big when they get pulled onto those beds.
Right.
So in a lot of ways, the smaller mod stock actually has better survival rates, but you have to deal with deer. And it's gonna be years before they're above that 5 feet cage, so it's.
The supports that are out there in the watering bag kind of keep the deer from rubbing their antlers on it. You know, but once you
True.
take it off, it's Katie bar the door, it's crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, I almost lost a couple of mine, so.
Is there anything else in that City of Manistee internal policies that you guys want changed on page 34?
I don't see anything there that,
I'm gonna say, Jeff, maybe you ought to take a close look at that, because I'm looking at like number 2, bullet point number 2, where it says no pruning or maintenance activity on tree that is within 10 feet of a power transmission line. Now, you guys are in there harvesting trees that are close and wires are going right through it.
we don't get that close to the wires.
I'm not gonna challenge that.
Yeah, that's a real.
the pruning, again, next to the last one, where it says no more than 25% of a tree's crown shall be removed during pruning, that's the last bullet point.
You're right,
Boy, you know, it's not the city doing it, it's,
somebody else.
Yeah, and there's only.
Consumers doesn't follow those regulations.
There's only so much you can do. This is really more targeted towards cycle pruning
Sure.
that you should be doing moving forward in the city. So that's something else, the more you read in the plan, it's got suggestions on, you know, hiring a forester for the city that actually is managing your urban canopy and working with arborists on a regular basis to do pruning.
I hope someday.
Really stop after
that
this
point,
grant.
But, you know.
Just keep in mind that rule is definitely a scientifically backed rule for the health of the tree, but also keep in mind that that's not necessarily the main goal of clearance pruning. So clearance pruning has a lot to do with getting things out of the way for safety purposes, and you're not often gonna be able to adhere. The rule is don't take more than 1/3 of the biomass in a single pruning if your concern is tree health. But when you have legalities tied to clearance pruning, sometimes it's gonna be that.
Tyler, just a real quick question too about pruning. Is pruning being contracted, is that part of the upcoming part of this grant?
Yep. So we will have pruning and removals. And I have the raw data from Great Lakes, so we have our own ArcGIS license at the district. And Josh and I have already preliminarily gone through the disadvantaged areas, filtered everything out, looking at like the highest priority pruning and removal situations to try and get a count of what we're gonna target. And part of that, we've filtered out anything that has a utility line conflict right now. So we're not gonna bother with something that has a utility line conflict, because that means getting consumers on board to come in and do pre-pruning before we get a contractor in to actually do the arborist pruning. So,
When you're doing that pruning and removal, when you're doing the pruning especially, it would be beneficial, in my opinion, to coordinate and let the DPW staff know so they can, there's some training that could go on there, I hope, because future
yeah.
pruning is gonna have to be done by the city.
And we still plan to hold a separate training with DPW staff led by Josh on proper pruning strategies, so that would be
Okay.
separately, but
Right.
obviously I'll still keep everyone informed when we have a contractor that's gonna be in the city that's starting the work. So let me just flip through. I think that's kind of the main things that I wanted to point out to you. So like I just mentioned about retaining a consultant, I did just put a note in there, kind of more for you guys, that services by the Conservation District Forester cannot conflict with the private sector. And while this may conflict with immediate grant completion, it should be considered for a long-term objective, seeking an actual consultant. The other thing that's in here that I'm going to have them change on page 42, At present, the city currently uses a contractor to treat trees for various pests and pathogens when needed. Treatment performed by Manistee on its own trees must be performed by a certified arborist who holds a valid pesticide applicator license. So I just kind of commented, it's important to note that while there are laws tied to who can treat with pesticides in Michigan, they should not be required necessarily to be a certified arborist. I know you guys have used Jim Scarlata a lot. He's probably the best as far as pesticide application goes for trees, and he is an arborist. He just chooses not to be certified by ISA. So putting that statement in there that, you know, they have to be a certified arborist and a commercial pesticide applicator, you're likely not going to find that person in northern Michigan. So, kind of the last big ticket items come to the acceptable and unacceptable tree species list on, starting on 46. So a lot of the species on that list are both non-native and also some that show signs of being potentially invasive. So we're gonna pare that list down, to make it easier for you guys to make selections. There shouldn't be any ambiguity in selecting trees and not knowing that, hey, this is actually a problematic tree because it's on this list. You would never think that. So we're gonna make some corrections to that list and then also put additional resources like we mentioned before with the DNR's list and tools that are available to you guys. So those will all get included. So that's pretty much it that I have on the plan. I will plan to submit this to Great Lakes Urban Forestry for correction. Probably, I would say, I want to give you guys time if there's any final comments from you that you want to incorporate now that you have it in your hands. So if I say 2 weeks from now, I'm going to submit with these alterations and anything else that I get from you guys as individual members of the committee, I'll include that with that going out to them. But if I don't hear from anyone, I'm going to submit this in 2 weeks. And you said you recently emailed the one with the comments? I did email this to you guys, after the last meeting.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's about a month ago.
Yeah, so that was the other thing. Josh had attended the last meeting because I was out on paternity leave and he had some follow-up questions from you guys that he couldn't answer, so I followed with an email kind of summarizing what Josh's questions were from that. The one thing, so everything should be in that email that you need from me, but there is one thing that I do need from you guys. And that was the training for the inventory. That's what or using the database, that is what brought it up. Great Lakes needs, the credentials to get logged into the city's ArcGIS to add the inventory there so that we can complete that training. I gave them the tree user login credentials that you guys gave me, but that's not an admin credential, so they can't add it from that. So they need something higher up to get in.
Jeff's gotta help you with that.
Okay.
Is that tree user still in operation?
I don't know.
There's still a tree user layer in there. This will be a separate file, so it'll be separate from that login. They're gonna create a new geodatabase within your guys' ArcGIS portal.
You gotta look at that guy, because we have nothing to.
Yeah, so you'll need a new login once this one is set, if you wanna have the same like tree user thing. Actually, I think the tree user gives you access to all the city's stuff. Cause I think I can see the other things.
You could probably see it,
outside of
but
the
you can't
inventory.
edit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was really the only thing that I needed to follow up on for the database. And then the other thing that I did want to talk to you guys about, so our, part of the grant agreement is we have to do some education within Manistee. So I've been working with our K through 12 educator, and she's planning some stuff with students, and one of the things she wants to do is a tree planting. So this would be one of the 100, essentially, and what she is actually looking at is doing something with the Armory youth project either the week after the 4th of July or August 16th. She has 2 camps. She did say she prefers the week after the 4th of July. And I wanted to clear it with you guys. If I pick the species and help her in securing the stock, she's good to go ahead and plant. The other thing that she wants to do, they're gonna do this at Duffy Park. Now, in the inventory, they did not survey plantable areas at Duffy Park, but I think there's ample room there that we could plant a tree around the fields. But before I give her a go-ahead, I obviously want a green light from you guys to pick a planting location and plant a tree with a bunch of kids.
Are we sending the right message to the residents of Northside or Maxwell Town? Because we said this grant doesn't put trees on parkland.
Well, there's nothing in the grant that precludes it from parkland. It just has to be within the disadvantaged area. And if you can make an argument that residents within the community use that park, which the park itself falls within the disadvantaged area. But that was something that we talked about with Morton. That one is on the wrong side of the street. So essentially you have to make an argument that that group would use that park if you wanted to plant a tree there. And this would be, like I said, one of the 100, and it's an education opportunity. But it's hard to get a group of 20 kids to plant a tree between a sidewalk in town, so.
I understand, I'm just that question. And I assuming that you would like us to participate and be there.
If you'd like to, but ultimately.
But I think that would be a good idea, everybody, because honestly, I was disappointed. Jerry and I were the only 2 that showed up to plant the tree on Arbor Day. So, and Jeff, thank God. But you need to show up for some, these kind of things, because this is part of the PR stuff we need to be doing.
So my comments on that are, we received a DTE grant 4 or 5 years ago to plant trees in that park. And the idea was that we would create some shade structure, and there were no trees in that park whatsoever. So we planted around outside of the baseball field to try to create some shade structure around the playground equipment. But I would think that would be a good candidate, and if you find a location, just let me know where you're thinking, and I'll make sure there's no other utilities or other maintenance type things that would conflict.
All right, so my plan then I'll go back to our educator, talk with her, we'll go scope out the area for a potential tree planting location. I'm just gonna see what we can secure as far as a tree, and then the grant will pay for it. It might not be a tree that's on your tree species list for the residents, but it would be something that is native. And
Again, all I ask on species, let's get the neighborhood advisory groups involved before we go after the 99 remaining ones, okay? And I'm still having trouble getting somebody from the north side. The city council member just is not placed a high enough priority on it that I'm working with, so I gotta get him to do something.
And I will say, while I'm talking about this too, she's also been communicating with the library about doing a similar thing. So that one would be likely somewhere around the library property. And that isn't finalized by any means, but so really when we're looking at it, at the end of the day, it'd be the 98 trees remaining possibly.
Just a side comment, in my experience personally growing up, raising kids, if you put that tree in a prominent location where they can look at it year after year after year after year, that they grow and learn from that every year, watching that tree. And then I was a part of that one. So while I said we planted some around that, I think if somehow we could make that kind of a prominent location that they could identify with.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely do that. That's the idea. So, so I think that's all that I have. Josh gave you kind of an update on where we're at with the grant. We did receive an extension, so we'll be working on the RFP this for both planting and pruning and removal this summer, with the anticipation that we can get this all wrapped up in the spring. And then we will also have to touch base and lock in a date for when you guys want to do training. So we're just kind of talking about it. You guys wanted the training that Josh did for Weddington. Maybe we could do like a full day effort where we do part of the day indoor. We go over things on like a presentation from Josh, and then maybe we walk and we actually look at some trees and talk about pruning. And then we'll have a separate training, most likely led by Great Lakes, on how to manage the database.
Yeah, because keep in mind, we're 8 months out of date on it, so we've tried to save a list of the tree removals that we've done. And I mean, we're just throwing them in a file, so at some point when the database is entered in a GIS, we can then update it, and
Okay.
the longer we go, the
Yeah,
harder that'll
I
be.
referenced your list that you'd sent, the last one that you had sent, to make sure that we weren't including any of those in.
Yeah, they're
in
gone.
this, so.
I know this much.
They're already done.
I use the Excel spreadsheet that it produced. When we get trim requests or removal requests, I'm able to go there, I'm pulling it up, and I'm able to have informed conversations with the resident. You know, this tree is the arborist that came here late last summer. It's a healthy tree. I know that you're concerned about it, but we're not gonna remove this tree.
Right,
And that's helpful to
Very
to
useful.
us.
yeah.
Okay? And as soon as we can get that on the GIS and can use our, our phones to go in there and see what the condition is on those trees, the better. I have one more question on this. The original document that we got had a significant 10-year budget section, and that concerned me greatly.
Okay.
I don't see it here, and I'm happy not to see it here, because I don't want, we've got to go to city council with this for final approval, and I don't want to,
So there is, the budget is in here.
where is it? I don't,
So this is,
jump out at me,
it's on page 26 and 27.
all right? Okay, it's in a different format. This scares me to death, to be honest,
Yep. And this, so
and I'd prefer we not have it.
not have the budget in there. Part of it too is like, I see this a lot with, like forestry plans that we do through our office. So people that want to get involved in like, a tax incentive program, or they just want the plan and we're paying them to get the plan. You know, for some of them, we pay them as soon as they have that plan, and they could throw it in the fireplace afterwards and never look at it again. So this budget isn't necessarily supposed to be what you submit to city council every year, but this is kind of a guide of, if you were to follow this plan to the T, this is what your projected pricing would be. And that's with pruning every tree that is supposed to get pruned in the city, doing all of the removals, planting 75 trees a year. So you can kind of take the budget with a grain of salt. I think it's good information to have in there, and I can have them modify the budget, reducing the 75 trees a year to 50 trees, so you'll have a more accurate number there.
So,
Do that, and then the pruning is done, it's not going to be done by contractors. It's going to be done by city employees.
So that's,
so I would look at this not as a budget, but
Okay.
like an asset management plan.
Okay?
So we do this with really all of our assets, but I'll take specifically streets.
Okay.
When we put together an asset management plan for the street, there's a hypothetical and then there's a real one. You know what I'm saying? The reality. The hypothetical says we should be investing $5 million a year because we've got $87 million of need. The reality is we're investing $1.5 million, and that becomes our transportation improvement plan. So we may want to look at how we title it, or, you know, kind of how we set that up. But I think it's okay to say, to manage your size of forestry, this is the type of budget that should be following it and supporting it. But, you know, I'll look at that as well. And
yeah, and I think that would be a great thing, because I didn't spend a lot of time here, but if that's something within this next 2 weeks that you guys want to review and, you know,
Well, it's-
give me your feedback, we can try to.
that feedback from Jeff right there helps me understand.
Yeah, because all you gotta do is say projected budget guide or something like
Yeah.
that.
This is-
And in a lot of situations, it's good to have a tool that says it's gonna cost way more than what you have, because that's leverage for you, so.
I just, yeah, I also don't want to scare people away and have the city council, you know,
Yep.
wait a minute, we can't do that. So,
I just wanna add to that, the other benefit of that, like what you're saying, Jeff, is that, to use Tyler's word, leverage, that language is leverage to get future grants to do the work.
okay, yeah, that,
I would not take out the expensive nature of that, because that's telling you what the true cost would be if you did all that work, or just guidelines.
well, that's, yeah,
one more.
go ahead, please.
This is actually just a typo, I think. It's a typo on page 3.
On page 3,
Yeah, under benefits, the second paragraph, the second line at the end, it says transportational cooling of water. And I think that's,
Transpire.
that's
Transport. Transport.
no, it's called evapotranspiration, is that what it's called? Transpiration.
yeah, transport, yeah, they've got an extra TA
Yeah.
in there.
Evapotranspiration,
Yeah, we can change that to evapotranspiration.
yeah.
All right,
Oh, I see it.
anybody else?
One thing, when's the date for Duffy Park? Do we have a date for that?
So the date is not set in stone, but she's got a whole week-long program the week after 4th of July.
Okay,
So she'll be out, she'll be doing things multiple days, and I don't know which day specifically she has planned for the tree planting, because she was waiting
this
for
camp,
approval.
this camp that she's gonna do is at the Armory.
Most of it is at the Armory, and then they will do like a dial ride to.
Be a great idea for us, just to show up and talk to, talk to the kids that are there, and
Yep.
thank you for. doing
Yeah,
this.
and if you want, I can rope someone from the tree commission, if you want Vidar to be roped in on Catherine's planning and communication, and then he can relay it to the rest of
Why don't we
you.
do that?
Okay,
Okay with that, Peter?
Yeah.
Great. All right, you good?
I think that's all I have.
Thank you so much for all this. Both of you guys are just doing a fantastic job. I'm so happy to be collaborating with you.
Okay, one more question.
Go ahead.
This, Tyler, you said you're gonna drop this off in 2 weeks?
I'm gonna send it to Great Lakes to
And-
get those,
So
yep, unless,
if we got some feedback, you'd like to have it before
Yeah.
2 weeks?
Right.
yep.
Okay. What were
Okay.
you saying, David?
Oh, I was just
gonna Okay.
finish that.
Okay.
Yeah, and he did email us too. It got kind of buried with the replies, but it looks like, on 4/13, it hit our mailboxes.
Okay.
For anyone who
Yep.
was also looking for it but didn't see it.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Everybody good?
Yep.
Okay, we got one more thing. David, did you have a chance to get the door hangers to these folks on 8th Street?
I have not gotten door hangers yet.
Pardon me?
I've not gotten door hangers yet.
Are you able to get that done here in the next few days, hopefully?
I was waiting for flyers. Did I miss something? Or
Flyers, you didn't get the flyers.
I didn't get flyers, no.
Got the door hanging,
Right, after.
talk to
the last-
Katie
Yeah. I
at the
thought we
DPW.
Yeah, we did, didn't we? Now I can't remember.
talked- We talked, but,
Yeah, I
after the last
remember.
meeting, but I never got any, I should have followed up maybe.
Yeah, I
but
don't think I did
we
either,
both-
so, yeah.
Yeah, I did have that conversation about getting.
We have
flyers.
15 new trees there. They all look fantastic. They're
Yep.
looking in great shape. I was just on 8th Street this morning. But we do need to engage the folks there that live in that neighborhood to deal with the watering.
Peter, would you mind doing that with me if she gives us some flyers?
I can do it with you too.
You can too? Okay. Okay.
That would be very nice. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And then we'll get some flyers from Jack Pine.
Yeah, if you need help.
It's fair,
let
two of
us
us
know,
go
but
might-
You're in charge, right?
Oh, it doesn't matter, whoever.
in charge.
I got to report back, but yeah,
You want him or me?
it don't matter, whoever is available. I mean, we can all go,
But I
really.
think I emailed Jack and they didn't get, they couldn't find them.
Pick a
I
date
think
and
that's
we'll
what
see if the
happened.
date's available for us.
Because I think,
As soon as I get the flyers, I will.
Adjourn, I have to ask Jeff something.
We're not
about
going to
it.
adjourn. Yeah, we're going on to that next, okay?
Okay.
Jeff, I'm sorry that she left. But her question about trees that are causing the buckling of the sidewalks and driveways, what do you suggest we do? Because we've got another one here that's,
That
the
the,
only reason they want to remove the tree is because the roots are buckling the,
and it's an otherwise healthy tree, right? According to our,
yeah, it's a
Data.
healthy tree.
yeah,
Do you have the tree trim?
I do.
Oh, does it have,
It's on Sixth Street,
On which street?
Sixth.
Sixth. She's on Fifth,
yeah,
but, and I
That's not
think we
She's on
can,
Fifth
Fifth
Avenue.
Avenue.
Fifth Avenue.
Fifth Avenue. I
222.
handled that. And I got a call back from her. I saved it.
Okay,
You want to
okay.
hear it, you know, I heard, there's words that I served in the Army for 4 years, and she cussed me out with
Oh, shit.
the
Oh.
word.
Oh, wow.
I just ignored it because that tree doesn't need to come down. The tree does not need to be trimmed. It does not need to, it's a healthy tree.
Good job, John.
So
I
like,
don't want that to happen to these other guys. What do you think? What should we be doing?
well, we've had this conversation many, many times, and it's a balance. The trees have many benefits to the community, but one of the side effects is that it impacts the sidewalks and causes the sidewalks to heave. By city ordinance, the adjoining property owner is responsible for maintaining that sidewalk and correcting it. In practice, I budget money every year to remove trip hazards, which includes heave sidewalks, settled sidewalks, and that sort of thing. We've probably been doing this program, the current program, for 8 years. We've made it across the north side. We've made it completely west of Maple Street. We're now working between Maple Street and 31, and we're about to 3rd Street. But it's going to take at least another decade and a half before we make a complete revolution of the city. Same thing happens with the trees and the sewer laterals. The roots cause intrusion into the sewer laterals. They cause the laterals to back up. I think the commission has not opinion that if the tree is healthy in the past, their opinion has been if it's a healthy tree and beneficial to the community, that impacts on the other infrastructure is more of a side effect, if you will.
In other words, we're not responsible. The homeowner is responsible for their sewer line and rooting it out.
Yes.
And the homeowner, we could hold the homeowner to say, well, that's your sidewalk. But I think that's not an acceptable way.
Yeah, and I always state that the ordinance puts that responsibility on the adjoining property owner, but I've never known that to be implemented, or it's just never been implemented.
It gives them the permission to fix it, correct?
100%.
Okay,
It's
well,
not the
that's-
permission, it's their responsibility.
Okay.
But it's never been enforced that way.
They're gonna say, down the street here, the city came in and, they trimmed that tree, they cut that root out and put a new sidewalk in. On Cedar, we know that, we've got one just up the street from us.
Well, that's yours, John, not mine.
On the other side of
Don't
the
point your finger at me.
But when we're replacing sidewalks, I mean, the first thing we do is make a pass through, and if the trip hazard is less than 2 inches, we can cut the sidewalk and we can take that hazard out of it. If it's greater than 2 inches, we have to remove the concrete and re-pour it. And when we do that, we're removing roots in order to make that sidewalk flat. And we've only had one that I could think of that blew over in a storm, and it was probably caused by the removal of those roots. That question just came up in the streetscape work that's happening between Pine and Spruce on River Street. There's a tree that the contractors and engineers are saying, when we put the brick pavers back in, it's gonna impact that tree. Do you want us to just remove it? I reached out to the commission. The commission said it's a healthy tree and it'll survive the construction.
Oh, okay,
It's a very healthy tree, and
okay.
and I don't see the reason to remove it. So,
So just,
pardon?
it sounds like you don't run into this situation, but if the landowner has the responsibility of repairing the sidewalk, and they have the funding to feel so fit to do so, and they tear out the sidewalk and are gonna have it re-poured, they can't touch the tree roots, can they?
So the way that I implement that is if a homeowner calls and says the sidewalk in front of my house is in bad condition, we go through what the ordinance says and we go through what our practice is. And then most of the time, the reality is we're not going to be there to proactively fix that sidewalk for years. So what we do is we partner with them where the city will remove the sidewalk and prep the site and then they pay for the concrete to be poured.
Oh,
And it's about a 50-50. And the reason why I'm doing that program is because there are literally thousands of sidewalks that need to be repaired in the city. And the old program was when you called in, you got on a list, and then we just simply went down that list until we ran out of budget money that year. And next year we'd start at that list and keep going. But we were moving all over the city and being very, very inefficient with it. So we maybe were removing 50 trip hazards where now we're probably removing 300 to 400, 500 a year. And so we're just trying to make a clean sweep.
So what should I tell this resident? Should I say we're not gonna do anything about it, or should I say you can partner 50-50 with the city and get new, like, how should I respond to her request?
Well, is the request to remove the tree?
Yes. She says, lifting sidewalk creating tripping hazard. Will begin to lift driveway causing property damage. So. But that, again, that's her property, right? So wouldn't they fix potential
The sidewalk
property?
is public property, and the tree is, I'm assuming the tree is public.
Driveway is not, or, I'm just, all right, I don't need to debate that. Just tell me how I should answer this lady's request, if it's a healthy tree.
The tree decision is the tree commission's decision.
And we don't remove healthy trees.
Okay?
Well, I mean, unless there's a good reason, right? I mean, because we've had to take down healthy trees because they were hazardous or they were going to be, or,
Or once this plan is implemented, it recommends you remove non-native invasive trees. So there could be some other reasons.
Just so you guys know, one of the things I'm gonna cover during the training, because this is circling back to something where it's very subjective, but it doesn't have to be, which is the tree risk assessment. There's an actual rubric that arborists use to determine what your risk level is within a 5-year time frame. If you guys want that to be part of that day-long thing, that's something I did for the Ludington Tree Board, and they found that to be helpful in the sense that they have a better understanding of what factors to look at, because biologically a tree may be healthy, but there may be other things going on that puts it at a higher risk level. Because tree risk is all about safety, it has nothing to do, it has little to do with like whether that's a biologically functioning healthy tree or not. It has to do with how that is interacting within a 5-year time frame. Is that going to be a problem for like an intersecting line or a building or a target, if you will? Those level 2 tracks are something that I believe Great Lakes is still going to be doing on a subset of trees for the city. That's part of the grant too.
There were 31 that were elevated for a level 2, so we have to get that scheduled to make a determination on what will happen to those trees. But yes, the TRAC form that Josh would go through or an arborist would go through is actually an appendix in your plan. So you'll see that form there, and then essentially the training would lead you through how to properly fill that form out and make a more educated decision on it.
so this tree could potentially be a higher risk tree is what you're saying hypothetically.
Possibly, but
Yeah.
typically sidewalk and stuff like what Jeff was talking about doesn't elevate the risk unless what is going on would lead failure that can like smash a target. So the only way that is going to be elevated to a higher risk is if there's value put on that driveway and that sidewalk. That's what would elevate it. And that is where there's still subjectivity, but like, VR, I did a track on your tree, right? The
Yep.
danger in saying a tree is safe, not safe, or whatever, and just saying that, is that somebody can come back and be like, well, what made you say that? That's where having that rubric is helpful, and that's why it's important to be careful when you're always saying to somebody, well, that tree's fine, that's safe, that's not safe. If you don't have something more than that to back that up, some people that might have a background might be like, well, what made you say that? And then you got problems. That's where the tree risk assessment can be really helpful, is that, well, here's why.
So, I'm sorry, I still don't understand what I'm supposed to tell this lady. How do you determine which property owners to do the 50-50 split thing with?
For replacing sidewalk,
Yeah,
it's anybody who requests it.
so I should
So basically,
tell her to
we'll-
get in
if-
touch with DPW?
Well, if their interest is in fixing the sidewalk, then the city will partner with them 50/50.
Okay,
I shouldn't say 50/50. We'll do the removal of the existing sidewalk.
gotcha.
What was the address? They were at 6th Street?
It is 293 6th Street.
293, so that's probably, I'd have to look, but that's likely east of the highway.
Which is the area you're just now getting to, or,
West of the highway, east of Maple Street
oh.
is where we're working.
Okay.
And we would probably be within that, or be within that zone of 6th Street within a couple of years, but we
Okay.
won't be east of the highway.
Okay,
Was it, what was the address?
293.
293, 6th Street?
okay. And then Jeff, I have another question, but I won't waste the commission's time with it, but if I could just grab you real
Sure.
quick after the meeting to ask you.
Okay. At this time, just before we go, David, you got anything you want to say? Anything on your mind?
I had more of a curiosity. I'm gonna flag one of these guys after we're done, I guess. It was, I guess I could ask it now. Regarding the roots, would it be better for them to not cut the roots out and just adjust the concrete to pour the new over and adjust the grade?
Say that again?
Instead of cutting the roots to put the sidewalk back where it was or flat, would it make more sense to adjust the grade and just put the new concrete over the roots?
Not if it creates a scenario where it's gonna mimic the situation where the tree is too deep.
Okay.
That's gonna lead to incorrect root growth, that can lead to root girdling, like I can't think of a way that could be done without losing the flare at the base of the tree, which is super problematic for city trees. You have to have that flare at the base, and that flare is caused by that first set of lateral structural roots. You can't bury those. If you bury those, then you're gonna have bigger issues at the base of the tree. That's when you get root rot or girdling roots, and then the tree just snaps and falls down eventually. Might not happen for 20 years, but yeah, I would never bury the flare.
And a lot of the times, the sidewalks have to meet a lot of fixed points, you know, the walkways going up to houses, driveways, the intersections. So it's, I mean, we try to adjust them if we can, but you're often pretty limited.
Okay,
That's all I had.
that's it. Jerry?
Nothing, enough said. already.
Peter?
Nope.
Sarah, anything else?
Nope,
Clear as mud for you.
yep.
All right, well, thank you all very much. Our next meeting will be in June, the second Monday of June. And that's the 8th. The first is the first Monday, so June 8th, 5 o'clock right here. And I will get the agenda out to you at least a week ahead of time. If you've got something you want to add to the agenda, please get back with me, and really appreciate your putting up with us today, but we had a lot to cover, and I really appreciate Tyler and Josh being here. Thank you.
Just last note
Yeah.
on the.
Does anyone have the password for the tree?
The what?
The password
So that is a Norway
I don't-
maple.
I don't.
Non-native maple.
Jerry may.
And it's also has decay column issues, but there's no observed high level of risk. So
Okay.
do with that what you.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have the password for
So,